Bengals fans, listen up. There's a lot happening in Cincinnati right now, and some of it could have a big impact on the upcoming games. Today, we've got fresh injury updates straight from the practice field, including one situation that might raise a few eyebrows, plus key takeaways from both yesterday and today's sessions. But before we dive into the latest news, make sure you're part of the Bengals Breakdown family. Hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like. First up, Jermaine Burton. Head coach Zach Taylor revealed yesterday that the team was already aware Burton wouldn't be participating. The rookie wide receiver took a hit in last week's game and has been working his way back since. The plan is for him to return by Friday, and if all goes well, we could see him suited up for the Bengals' second preseason matchup. His recovery is being watched closely, as the team values what he brings to the offense. Now, let's talk about the rest of the injury front in Cincinnati. And there's a mix of good news and a few things worth keeping an eye on. Tight end Mike Gesicki continues his rehab, and coach Zach Taylor emphasized patience with his recovery. It's the same story for defensive tackle B.J. Hill, who has started easing back into action with individual drills. The coaching staff isn't sounding any alarms. Both players are seasoned pros, and confidence is high they'll be ready when the regular season kicks off. But here's where it gets interesting. Orlando Brown Jr. was absent from today's practice, despite being a full participant yesterday. The Bengals can't afford extended time without their cornerstone left tackle, especially given he missed games last season. This could be nothing more than a personal matter or a precaution, but it's definitely notable. Cody Ford slid into that left tackle role today in Brown's absence. On the defensive side, rookie Myles Murphy picked up a knock in yesterday's session. While he did return to the field, there was a visible limp, and he was sidelined again today. Overall, most of these situations don't seem serious. But when it comes to Brown, the Bengals will be hoping this is just a short break and not a sign of a larger issue. Protecting Joe Burrow starts with keeping that offensive line intact, and Brown is a massive part of that equation. When you look at the Bengals' unofficial depth chart, Cody Ford is currently listed at right guard. But the truth is, he's one of the most movable pieces on this offensive line. Whether you like him in the starting mix or not, the coaching staff has leaned on his versatility, shifting him across multiple spots depending on the team's needs. That flexibility could become critical if Orlando Brown Jr. misses any time. Last season, Brown managed 11 games before a season-ending injury shut him down. The team is hoping this latest absence is nothing serious. But until there's clarity, it's a situation worth tracking closely. Ford's experience in Cincinnati is a mixed bag. In 2023, he stepped in at left tackle when Brown was unavailable, but that was far from his only role. He also logged snaps at right guard, right tackle, and even lined up as an extra tight end in heavy formations. That kind of position flexibility is valuable, especially in the NFL, where offensive lines are constantly tested by injuries. However, versatility only matters if the performance holds up. Last year, Ford played 688 snaps across 14 games, and the results were inconsistent at best. While he filled multiple roles, he also surrendered too many pressures and sacks, something the Bengals can't afford if they want to keep Joe Burrow upright and healthy. This season, the challenge for Ford is clear. Keep the versatility, but raise the level of play. Because if the Bengals are forced to rely on him again for extended stretches, his protection could directly shape the offense's success. When it comes to evaluating a player's performance, Pro Football Focus puff grades can be a tricky thing. You don't have to take the exact number as gospel, whether it's a 49 or a 55. Both fall into the same category, below the standard you want for a starting offensive lineman. The real value is in the range, not the specific decimal points. Puff's grading isn't flawless. You might disagree with how they weigh certain plays, but it's still coming from people who spend hours breaking down film. And when the tape shows you've allowed too many sacks, hurries, and pressures, the grade is going to reflect that reality, no matter the system. That's the challenge Cody Ford faces. As of today, he was the one filling in at left tackle during practice in Orlando Brown Jr. absence. It's a reminder of just how important depth is, but also how much the Bengals need consistency from their backups. In the NFL, one weak link along the offensive line can change the outcome of a game. That's why Ford's performance, whether he's playing guard, tackle, or in a fill-in role, will be closely watched, because protecting Joe Burrow isn't just about the starters. Let's shift the focus to practice observations from the past 2 days, and there's plenty to unpack. First up, Seth McLaclin has been getting valuable second-team reps at center. Over the last 2 practices, reports say he logged roughly a dozen snaps in the move the ball drill, a good sign for a player still finding his rhythm in the pros. In the Bengals' first preseason game against the Eagles, it was Andrew Rupchie handling those second-team center duties, but the performance left room for improvement. McLachlan's journey is already a compelling one. He's returning from a season-ending Achilles injury suffered last year at Ohio State. Yet he was so dominant in college that he won the prestigious Remington Award as the nation's best center. If he stays healthy, don't be surprised if he climbs the depth chart quickly, potentially locking down the role of primary backup behind veteran Ted Karras. That would also put him in strong position as one of the top undrafted free agents fighting for a roster spot this year. Now, to the moment that really caught everyone's attention, a bit of on-field tension. During today's practice, defensive lineman Sheamar Stewart and guard Lucas Patrick got into a heated exchange. It wasn't a full-blown fight, but enough of a scuffle to grab headlines. The spark? Stewart made contact with Joe Burrow after a rep, something that's essentially the golden rule in Cincinnati. You do not touch the franchise quarterback. Center Ted Karras addressed the incident afterward, praising Stewart's energy, but making it clear that composure is key. Burrow has to be off limits, no matter the situation. Interestingly, earlier in practice, Stewart had beaten rookie tackle Amarius Mims clean on a rush. That play ended without Burrow being touched, but even then, tempers flared briefly before both players cooled off. Training camp always brings competition and intensity, but moments like this show the fine line between aggressive play and protecting the team's most valuable asset. After the earlier exchange with Amarius Mims, it was the rep against Lucas Patrick that really lit the spark. Sheamar Stewart won the battle, closed in, and made contact with Joe Burrow, and that's when tempers flared. Teammates stepped in quickly, and cooler heads eventually prevailed. But the message remains the same. Intensity is great, but you have to know the line. In Cincinnati, that line is clear. You do not touch the quarterback. To his credit, Stewart has brought plenty of fire to camp. He didn't make much noise in the first preseason game against the Eagles, but it looks like he's gearing up for a bigger impact in the second matchup. If he channels that energy without crossing the line, the Bengals could have an intriguing depth piece developing on the defensive front. Switching over to the offense, Samir Parini had one of his sharper practice performances yesterday. The timing was interesting, given that earlier in the day, there was discussion about Taj Brooks potentially overtaking him on the depth chart later this season. Parini responded on the field, hauling in multiple touchdown catches during team drills and showing quickness that stood out on social media clips. For Cincinnati, that's a win-win scenario. Even if Brooks eventually earns more carries, Parini's ability to contribute on special teams and provide steady depth at running back makes him valuable. Whether he's RB2, RB3, or even RB4, the Bengals benefit from having multiple backs who can step in without a drop-off. On the defensive side, Jordan Battle also made a statement, picking off Joe Burrow during yesterday's practice. With starting safety Geno Stone sidelined by a hamstring injury, Battle's playmaking is a welcome sign. He's showing that the Bengals' safety depth can hold up even when a key starter is unavailable. The Bengals' safety position remains one of the more intriguing storylines of camp. With Geno Stone still sidelined by a hamstring injury and no firm timetable for his return, head coach Zach Taylor has been vocal about the need for others in that room to step up. The projected starters, Stone and Jordan Battle, have the talent to solidify the back end of the defense. But Battle is still early in his NFL career and developing. That leaves the door open for depth players like Tyson Anderson and Jalen Key to make their mark. Key, in particular, flashed in the first preseason game and could see an increase in snaps this week. Behind them, DJ Anthony and PJ Jules will need to prove they can be reliable rotational pieces if called upon. Concerns from fans about the secondary aren't unfounded, which is why Battle's interception of Joe Burrow in practice was such a positive sign. It wasn't just the turnover, it was the energy. After the pick six, Battle exchanged some playful trash talk with Jamar Chase and members of the offensive staff, adding a spark to the day's session. That kind of competitive fire is exactly what the Bengals want to see from their young defenders. Switching to the quarterback room, Desmond Ridder took some second-team reps today, a notable shift considering Jake Browning was present at practice. There are two possible interpretations. Either the Bengals are comfortable with Browning as QB2, but want to give Ridder and Peyton Thorne more live work this week, or they were less than thrilled with Browning's performance against the Eagles and are opening the door for competition. Ridder's preseason debut was uneven. He started slow but found his rhythm after hitting Jamoy Myers on a 42-yard deep shot, eventually leading a touchdown drive. That's something Browning couldn't accomplish in the opener. Whether this is a genuine battle for the QB2 role or just an extended audition period will become clearer in the coming practices and the upcoming preseason matchup against Washington.